Hi, I'm Michelle Zimmer with Wild Serendipity Foods, where the flavor is always fresh and fabulous. I'm formerly an engineer, now affectionately known as the Scone Lady at the Saskatoon Farmers Market, where you'll find me every Saturday. I've always loved the name serendipity, which is finding a treasure, stumbling upon a treasure that you weren't looking for at the time. You're on another path. And wild sort of came from, I knew I wanted it to have something to do with the vast openness of the prairies. My first summer at the market, I thought, I'll just try scones. I'd never even eaten a scone in my life. So found a recipe, tried it out, and I knew in my mind that those type of things were never good baked the day before and eaten the next day. So I baked them fresh that morning. Next week, after I did about a dozen the first week, the next week was maybe 2 dozen, week after that maybe 4 dozen, and it started growing. I was getting up earlier and earlier, and now at this time of year it's 700 plus scones, and the freshness is definitely the key. People line up for them to get their morning scones, and it's a labor of love, and my customers is what keeps me getting up in the morning, and my rapport with my customers, and many of them have become friends, but their appreciation of my product is what keeps me going. So I get up at 2, out of the house by 2:15. I put my makeup on, get all ready for the day, and head to my kitchen, fire up the ovens, and I bake for about 3 hours straight, pack them all up in almost a truckload, haul it off to the market, set up, and from then on it's dealing with customers straight through from 8 till 2 o'clock. I always try to have local berries, so I've got local Saskatoon berries, Saskatoon berry pecan, and then I do a sour cherry toffee also with the local sour cherries, which has become a huge growing crop that thankfully through the University of Saskatchewan Horticulture Department, they grafted these trees, and now we have this amazing crop that didn't exist here before. And I've got more traditional things like maple oatmeal. I've got toffee cream, pumpkin toffee, my newest one, ginger, I can't even think what I'm doing. What do I do? Ginger, lime, coconut. So when I first started at the Saskatoon Farmers Market, I had to deal with people one-on-one, and really was uncomfortable with that. It's not my nature to be outgoing and have small talk with people, so I was sort of forced into this situation, and at first I thought, I've made a huge mistake. My first day, I couldn't barely speak to the customers. I sort of sat back and tried to just get them to look at things, and slowly it became this comfortable sweater I was able to put on, and altogether it's just a really positive place to be on Saturday, and it's always an energizing part of my week for sure. Well, I started off cooking at a really young age. My grandma would sit me down at about 5 or 6 years of age in the kitchen, and we'd bake all kinds of things together. And that was sort of how I spent a lot of my summers, just pouring through cookbooks and cooking. And then I guess as I got older, life got busy with school and that, and I always had it as a hobby, but never really a serious one. And I did an engineering degree, which was sort of the opposite of creative, and not really much time to do anything other than eat maybe craft dinner and drink Coke to study for exams. So I kind of put that whole part of me, I guess, aside for a few years, and then when life sort of slowed down and I was able to look at my own personal interests again, I took up cooking, and that was about the time that the Food Network started up, and we had celebrity chefs, so everywhere you looked there was cooking of all different kinds, people doing it as careers, and suddenly it became a serious hobby, and then that hobby became an obsession. I moonlighted at a Victoria restaurant, engineer by day, and I was plating high-end desserts at night. So I knew the only way I could do this for a living was to eventually start my own business. Ended up coming back to Saskatoon so my husband could do a master's degree. Didn't want to come back. We'd been living in beautiful Vancouver, but here the cost of living was so much lower that it was a possibility, and looked at the farmers market as a baby step to starting a business. So I applied, and I wanted to do things like sushi and curries and all sorts of stuff that I learned how to cook in Vancouver. I took the plunge and quit my job without even having experimented with the farmers market. took out a 5-year commercial lease, built a kitchen, and started Wild Serendipity Foods. And I think I had about 7 different business streams when I started out, all to pay the bills. And I was lucky enough that as time went on and I could see different parts of my business, the ones that didn't necessarily take the most time, but things that were the most fulfilling personally and financially, I could pursue those and start shaving off some of the other streams to make life simpler and to work less than 80 plus hours a week. So I've been lucky to, I think, pick the right things, and now my business is primarily cooking classes, and of course the farmers market is the main part of my business. I think when you move away and come back here, you see it from a new fresh pair of eyes.